Hello everyone and warm welcome to Business Live. Coming up tonight, World Bank lowers Ghana's growth rate to below 2% this year, placing the country at the 29th position in sub-Saharan Africa. Ahead, we will engage economist Dr. Patrick Esumen, who will be sharing his perspective with us. Coming up in this bulletin as well, the Ghana Revenue Authority awaits Parliament or President Akufo-Addo's assent of the 3 tax measures passed by Parliament. We will also engage the thoughts of a tax partner at Deloitte Ghana. Plus, today on the Joy Business Van, the concluding part of our series of Takura, the Ghanaian firm craving a niche for itself in the business of furniture design. We have details of these and many others coming your way in a moment. Please stay. And those were your latest commodities updates. I am Pious Kojo Backah. To our very first story, and of course, we will have to do something on the economy because the World Bank has reviewed Ghana's growth rate to below 2% this year, placing the country at the 29th position in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, that's according to the World Bank's April 2023 Africa Pulse report. There is more in this report.
According to the World Bank, the expected low growth rate in the country is characterized by challenges within the fiscal economy and increased interest rates impacting on businesses and household spending. It further said the Ghanaian economy has been struggling with high levels of public debt and elevated inflation fueled by a sharp weakening of the cedi. To curb the rising inflation, it said the Bank of Ghana raised its policy rate by a record 1,500 basis points to 29.5% in March 2023 from 14.5% in December 2021. The World Bank added that the recovery of economic activity in the sub-Saharan Africa is multi-speed with wide variation across countries. The Bretton Woods institution had earlier projected a 2.7% expansion of the Ghanaian economy in 2023.
All right, so let's get a better appreciation of this development. And joining us via Zoom to share his perspective with us is economist Dr. Patrick Esumen. Dr. Patrick Esumen, grateful you could join me on Business Live. Now, this certainly isn't a surprise, you would say.
Good evening and good evening to viewers. You're absolutely right. This is not surprising at all. If you look at the recent data we've seen on the Ghanaian economy, it clearly points to a further weakening in the real sector. So last month, when the Bank of Ghana released the current data on the economy, we saw that the real composite index of economic activity had declined. We've seen a huge decline in the month of January. And then we've also seen that the domestic debt exchange rate that has really weakened the position, financial strength of the banks. So it's going to limit the ability to support economic growth. And then we've also seen some of the policy measures that the Bank of Ghana has put in place by way of raising the policy rate. All of these are expected to affect business sentiment going forward. So it's not a surprise at all.
But we do know that as we speak now, we are basically going to the IMF for a bailout. In all of these, how do you think this will help improve our outlook, economic outlook?
So I think obviously there are delays. I think it was expected by the end of the first quarter we would have had the agreement approved, and then we could start implementing. But that hasn't happened. Now we also have to understand that even when the agreement is approved, it's going to take a while for us to stabilize things before we start seeing the fortunes of the economy turn around. So this is more like a delay in when we start seeing recovery. So that means that the growth that we projected from the start of the year will be lower. So there's, whatever recovery the IMF program would have brought us, we should expect that there's going to be a delay because we have not got the program approved yet. And then in any case, if you had even started at the start of March, we have to understand that we won't even see immediate disbursement the moment the deal is approved. Then it takes a while. This is really a program to restore macroeconomic stability, first of all. And we have to understand that some of the measures that we might implement might not take a while to bring any fruits. So it's not something that will immediately change the growth projections.
Going forward, how do you think we need to, catch up so that, we, meet our end of year target?
I think it's more important to maybe look more medium term. It's okay to boost the growth target, to meet the growth target for the year, but we have to understand that the source of the growth and the character of the growth matters. So we have to think about rebuilding the economy in such a way that it's going to be on a sustainable path and it's going to be more robust. So it's good that we get the IMF funds coming in and then we get the program started. But we have to understand that the structure of the economy has a problem. The structure of public finances have a problem. So if it means taking some shorter term pains so that you'll be able to change the structure for the long term going forward, I think that's what we should be doing. Not necessarily trying to do short term measures to boost the growth.
We are grateful, Dr. Patrick Esuming, for your time here on Business Live, sharing your perspective with us on this latest report from the World Bank. Let's move on to some other stories touching on revenue, though the Ghana Revenue Authority has stated its readiness to implement the 3 key taxes passed by Parliament. Well, this will be done soon after President Akufo-Addo gives his assent to the bills. There is more in this report.
Joy Business understands the Ghana Revenue Authority is already working on the regulations that would guide the implementation of these taxes. This is expected to give fine details on how the enforcement should be done. These regulations would also guide the Ghana Revenue Authority on specific areas that these taxes should be applied and also deal with the ambiguities that is often associated with the taxes when it's passed by a parliament. However, officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority insist these regulations will only be made public after the President signs off these bills. It is not clear for now why the President is yet to give his assent to these bills, looking at how it was rushed to secure Parliament's approval to help fast-track the process of securing an IMF board approval for Ghana's economic program. But looking at the work done so far by the Ghana Revenue Authority on these bills, in terms of the regulations, it is clear that it wouldn't take that long if the President to give his assent today for the implementation to take off fully. While on the other hand, more business associations are turning their attention to the President to delay the signing of these bills for more engagement. They argue that if these taxes are implemented, it will lead to the collapse of more businesses in the country.
All right, so let's explore this angle further. And joining us is a tax expert and a partner at Deloitte Ghana, Gideon Ayi-Awu, who joins me live. Gideon, grateful you could join me on Business Live. I hope I got your name right. But we do know that when Parliament passed any bill, before the President gives his assent, he has an ample time, let's say 90 days to implement or basically give his assent to the bill. Now, during now and 90 days, is anything likely to happen in terms of changes, especially when we do know that the business community have raised several concerns? Do you see that happening?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with your listeners. So generally, when you have a bill which has been presented to the president after it's been passed by Parliament, the president can usually agree to it, assent or refuse it, and then follow certain procedures. But in this case, you are talking about the tax bill, and the 1992 Constitution of Ghana treats tax bills slightly different from other bills. So tax bills are generally under the class you call money bills or government bills, and these are bills which affect appropriation of public funds or raising of taxation, for example, or remission of government debts. So when you have a tax bill, which is a money bill coming from the executive, which can only be introduced by on behalf of the president, once it gets to the president, based on the constitution of Ghana, the president can only do one thing, and that is to assent to it. And in this case, somebody could say, why? I'm not a constitutional expert, but when I look at it, this is a law coming from the president, or the president by constitution is the only one who can present it to parliament. So somebody say, why is it that then the president presents something to parliament and then he refuses to assent? Because this came on his behalf. So the constitution has also made a provision there that once you have that, in the case such as tax bill, the president can only assent, and the process by which he can veto or take it back to parliament is not provided here. And so looking at it, the only other way by which he can go against this is by sending another bill to parliament, which will repeal it. So as it is now, based on my reading of the constitution of Ghana, he can only assent to it. It is gazetted, and then it becomes law on the day it is gazetted, or if a date is stated or an otherwise date is stated on the bill, then on the date that is stated on the bill.
We are racing against time to, get the IMF board approval. And we were made to understand that these three tax measures are, prerequisite kind of. So why the delay? We were looking forward to, right after the passage of the bills, we were looking forward to the president, giving his assent to that. Why the delay now?
Well, I think that it will be those who deal with the executive and the Jubilee House to be able to answer that question. As I sit here, I can only guess what is happening there, and that will not be really helpful. But from what I understand, due to the IMF request and the fact that this has come from the president to go through this whole process, it will be passed as it is now, unless there is a repeal sent back to Parliament to change certain aspects of it.
All right, so help us understand this whole GRA regulations that often accompany, bills that are passed by law.
Okay, so by regulations, the Revenue Administrations Act of Ghana, which empowers the Ghana Revenue Authority to give out or pass this regulation through the Minister of Finance, actually provides that these regulations, they are not substantive law, if I will put it in such words. They are there to aid or guide the implementation of the laws, and they do not override the laws. They help us understand, and they also help the taxpayers comply with the law. So they just give the general principles and purposes of the tax provision, but they are not our law itself. However, when they have the force of law in the sense that when you go against them, you will be penalized. So it is for the GRA to bring these regulations that would then make it easier for you and I and businesses to be able to abide by these new tax provisions.
Talking about businesses, I'm pretty sure you've listened to the concerns of the Ghanaian, business community. Do you think they can make any changes between now as we await the president's, appended signature?
Yeah, and that's what I shared earlier, that based on my understanding, Parliament has passed the law. It is left, the only thing the president can do now is to assent to it. Based on the constitution, a tax bill cannot be rejected or it cannot be vetoed, as we have with the other general type of bills presented to the president. So unless another repeal is sent and then we have a new law, from my understanding, this is bound to become law based on the dates of which is assented as well as gazetted.
Do Gideon Ayiawu is a tax partner with Deloitte Ghana, sharing his perspective with us on this subject matter. We shall certainly keep an eye on that and keep viewers, of course, posted. And that was today's edition of the Joy Business Van there. Now, government has assured that it is working to build a resilient financial sector despite losses incurred by banks as a result of the domestic debt exchange program. According to a Deputy Finance Minister, Abnasi Asari, the Government Stability Fund will serve as a temporary liquidity and insolvency to cushion banks. She was speaking at the launch of the financial education campaign.
The financial education campaign was launched to build a positive financial behavior among Ghanaians. The campaign is tailored to help Ghanaians select financial services that will meet their needs and prevent them from falling prey to Ponzi schemes. Speaking at the launch of the campaign, Deputy Finance Minister Abnasi Asari said government is committed to helping banks that were impacted by the domestic debt exchange program to remain resilient.
And despite the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war, as well as the domestic debt exchange program, the Ghanaian financial sector remains resilient. It is a testament to the financial sector restructuring exercise undertaken by government way back in 2017. The Monetary Policy Committee in their latest release revealed that the banking industry remains relatively stable, despite recording some losses from the domestic debt exchange program. However, to further strengthen the sector and provide a stability backstop to the industry, government, in collaboration with the financial sector regulators, is working on the Ghana Financial Stability Fund. This is a standby liquidity and solvency financing mechanism to help mitigate the potential impact of government's debt operations on the financial sector. The fund will provide temporary liquidity and solvency support to licensed financial institutions that may face liquidity and solvency challenges arising from their participation in the domestic debt exchange program. This will provide further support to the financial institutions in addition to the various regulatory forbearances provided by their respective regulators.
Head of Financial Sector Division at the Ministry of Finance, Patience Akukuma added that the campaign would help individuals to make informed financial decisions and prevent them from falling prey to Ponzi schemes.
You'd realize that, especially when we went to the field, and from what was played, a lot of people don't know. They'll say that, okay, you come and save with me or come and invest with me and I'll give you this amount of money. Okay, sometimes what they do is that they promise a return, unjustifiably higher than the average. It is very normal for a financial institution to provide or give a return, okay, which is slightly higher than the normal government of Ghana instrument rates that has been given, but it shouldn't be unjustifiably high. And that is what these schemes would promise. We'll give you 100% return. And you should ask yourself, is it feasible? Where are they going to get the money to pay you? And so, yes, we are going to emphasize on Ponzi schemes, the operations of Ponzi schemes, characteristics of Ponzi schemes, and other things to enable them know and then move away from that. Right.
The financial education campaign will be run in various parts of the country for 6 months.
And that's it for tonight's edition of Business Live. I am Pious Kojo Backah. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Pleasure serving you.